Hey, I'm Simona Costantini, and I'm obsessed with helping you heal, connect to your purpose, and teaching you about all things mindset. I realized I deserved and wanted more from this crazy little thing called life, so I changed my beliefs, healed my hurt, and made it my mission to help you do the same. I'm a recovering people pleaser turned life coach and podcast producer. I teach busy business owners how to fall in love with their life and business and live it on their terms. On this show, you get everything raw and real, from inspirational guest interviews to deep dives into topics like life, relationships, business, purpose, growth, and mindset. I lay it all on the line every time. Think of this as your one-stop shop to help you live a more purposeful and inspired life. This is the Happiness Happens podcast. Are you ready to hear this inspiring conversation? Let's dive on in. Hello, Kimberly. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Happiness happens.
I love it so much. Yes, it does. Could you tell, could you, we're back. We're back? Okay, good. Could you tell us a little bit about the journey that has brought you to where you are today?
I can. I live in Northern California, and after I graduated from college, I wanted to start farming. I was like determined from a really young age to save the earth. That was like my goal. In fifth grade, I won the Save the Earth poster contest and got a t-shirt, and it was like my thing. I was going to do it. So I moved up to Northern California, went to college for environmental, natural resource conservation type stuff. And I just realized like there was such a mess in our food system and the way that we grow food and take care of the earth and people. So I wanted to become an organic farmer. So as soon as I left college, I moved to an organic farm and started growing produce, and it's a lot of work. Surprise, surprise. It is hard work and not a lot of financial reward. So I did that for about 6 years. I met my husband. We had a farm together, and we decided what we needed was a cash crop. Where I live, there was a lot of illegal cash crop at the time, lots of people growing marijuana, and we wanted to do a legal cash crop. So we planted grapes, and we decided we would sell those to a local winery. So we did that, and it took 3 years, and we were just so naive, like looking back, all these like little rookie maneuvers where we planted the grapes on somebody else's land. We just had a lease. And so it took so much work, and we needed a bear fence. We needed like an electric fence for bears, where most wineries and vineyards in California don't have bears, but we were like out in the wilderness. So we needed, it was just a lot of work. And after 3 years, we finally got a crop and we sold it, and it just wasn't really that satisfying. So we decided to write a business plan, get investors, start a winery, and another naive move, big money move. And the reason that this was naive is because it's such a long-term plan, is such a long-term investment, that a lot of times, a winery won't make money until multiple generations down the road. And so then we're like, we got investors, we bought property, we grew grapes, we built a winery. Then you finally harvest the grapes, then you finally put them in the barrel, then you finally bottle them. You're like so many years and dollars down the road. We had pretty much burned our marriage out, really, is what we did. Our marriage died on the vine, literally.
Yeah.
And then I needed to, it was like, we had been together for 15 years, and I wasn't happy for about 10 of those.
Wow.
I know.
And I guess just like masking with the fact that you guys worked together and you have
all
these
the time
projects. So you're like, okay, make it work. And
we had a focus. And we also I had kids during that time, also had 2 kids. And so big projects, lots of big projects. And we were working 7 days a week just to get by. And when I finally realized we weren't happy, I went to a therapist and thought, let's do marriage therapy. Let's figure this out. And she asked that question of when did I fall out of love? And it was like, it came tumbling out of my mouth 10 years ago.
Wow.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks when I said it, like, oh shit. I have been like settling, tolerating, not very happy, and pretty resentful, and not that nice. And so I decided to leave. And it was hard to do that, having kids and having a business and everything else. But I did it and did a yoga teacher training, which was this one guy on this podcast I did recently said, is it a requirement that women, when they get divorced, go into a yoga teacher training? No, I think actually the yoga teacher training comes first, because in the yoga teacher training, I sat and actually faced what I truly wanted and then what I had and the differences there.
Yeah.
So I told the truth to myself and to my husband, and I left. And then I started teaching yoga. And what I really liked about it was, in the beginning, sharing a theme, and like, say the theme is the solstice, the winter solstice that's coming, and then carrying that through the poses in the class. And then afterwards, having people come and talk about how it landed for them and what's going on in their life. I really like that part. I like that part a lot more than I liked left foot forward, right foot back, that kind of stuff. I really liked connecting with people, and I wanted to hear more. I wanted to ask more questions. Tell me more about your mom coming to visit and what's going on. And so I thought, do I want to be a therapist? Do I want to be a coach? I didn't know a whole lot about life coaching. I had heard about it, but wasn't sure that it was a legit way to really have a career. Totally. So I looked into becoming a therapist, and I saw just a lot of classes in the coursework that I really wasn't interested in. And I thought, shit, I have been in school for so many years of my life taking classes I wasn't interested in. I am not willing to sit and do that anymore of my life. It's just too precious. It's too short. I've wasted enough time doing stuff I don't like. So this has to be fully in alignment. So then my yoga teacher was getting coached by somebody at the Handel Group. So she told me about the Handel Group.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at their website, and I ended up contacting someone and asking about becoming a coach and the curriculum. And I looked at all of the principles that we teach and all of the homework assignments. And I really wanted to do all of that on myself and on my own life. And I thought, well, I can just look at this as a chance to transform myself. And maybe that will lead to me being a coach and helping other people do this. But even if it doesn't, it's going to lead me to the next step in my life. This is going to take me to the next level of who I want to be. So that was 2012. And I have been with the Handel Group ever since. I ended up becoming the director of operations in the corporate division during my training, and really liked the people so much. I mean, really, I didn't love being director of operations. I don't love spreadsheets. I don't know if anybody really does. I mean, some people really do. Actually, there is a woman in our company that really does this kind of stuff and loves it. She loves solving problems. And so I felt like square peg, round hole. But the fact that I got to work with this group of people that completely walk their talk, that are like hold themselves accountable and held me accountable. I was practicing the method every day in my job while I was also doing the training. So that helped me get really familiar then with our corporate offerings. I never thought I would do corporate coaching. And I didn't see, like, yoga teacher didn't seem like a total fit, but I was an entrepreneur. I did start a business. I was the chief financial officer. I was, and then, I did financial management for a solar company, and I did the director of operations. So I did understand business and business dynamics.
Yeah.
So I finally graduated after 5 years of being
Wow.
in the program. So it was not a quick fix.
Wow. Is that typical, like how long it typically takes to become a coach in the Handel Method?
No,
Oh,
it took
okay.
me longer. I had made quite the mess of my life because I didn't leave my husband in any like clean manner. I left with another man.
Okay, there you makes sense. Well, yeah.
So that was messy.
Yeah.
And there was just I had a mess with money and my relationship with money.
Yeah.
I was a mess with time and my relationship to time, and I was I just every area needed a total overhaul and a deep dive, and so it took a while to do that. You don't graduate until you transform your life.
Wow.
And so it took me a while.
However long it takes. That's the amount of time, however long it takes.
Exactly right. And I was in no rush. There was no emergency. I was enjoying the ride and the deep dive. And I did so much healing, like going back to my ex-husband was one of my first assignments, and really owning all that I did to take our marriage down.
Wow.
And apologizing for all of that and cleaning that up, and going back to my sister and having conversations with her about stuff that happened 30 years ago that we had never talked about since.
Wow.
But it was impacting me, and I was carrying it around, and it was getting in the way of my relationship with her and my relationship with other people, and having to go back to my dad and my mom, and it was a lot of it was a lot of cleanup that ended up, I think what it ended up really doing for me was creating a new narrative that I live by. So instead of like, this stuff happened to me and it proves that like nobody cares or nobody's ever gonna show up for you, you got to show up for yourself. Instead it's like the new narrative can be, oh, when I speak up I get my needs met. When I speak up, and let people in, they love me, they get close to me, instead of like, okay, I keep people at arm's length because I can't trust them. So
that's huge.
It ended up becoming a reframe for me to live by still.
That's incredible, because I think that oftentimes what happens when people try and change their lives or transform their lives, I feel like maybe they look at one particular thing. And I've heard a lot I've just heard a lot like, well, I've done the work and I'm fine now. And I'm like, but like, there are so many layers to that. You know what I mean? Like, and you could very well be like, it could just be one small thing here and there, but typically everything is so intertwined. Like your relationship to yourself and your and money and your self-worth and your career and what you put out and the people around you is so intertwined in how you feel from the inside. So like, of course that would reflect from the inside out. That's a really powerful thing for you to do though. Did you have like, did you know how you wanted your life to transform, or was it kind of like, I don't know what else to do, so like I need to do this? You know what I mean?
You mean like doing the work to become a coach?
Yeah, like, in terms of deciding to take the step towards transforming your life, how did you get to that decision? Like, was there something that sparked it within you, or was it just kind of like, well, I'm so unhappy, I need to do something? Or was it like, this sounds cool, so I'm going to follow that, and then a byproduct of doing that was you transforming your life?
Yeah. I had been a self-helpian for a while. So I, was drawn to every book I could get my hands on with Eckhart Tolle and,
Yes.
just reading everything that I could and listening to everything I could. I loved all of it. This, all the Peaceful Warrior and, from when I was in high school, like going to the New Age bookstore and getting all this stuff. So I had been drawn. This is what I did in my spare time, was read about psychology and self-help and self-awareness.
Wow.
And so it was like such a natural fit for me to just want to deep dive. Like I just feel like a life learner. Like I'm never going to be done. I don't want to be done. I don't expect to like ever be finished. Boom, check, I'm done. Like here I am now. I've reached it. There's so many unfolding layers that I just find so healing and interesting. It's like just this year, I had all these memories from when I was 5 come back to me that I had forgotten, that I hadn't even thought about, that I was able to then go back and talk to my mom about all of them and get what she remembered. So
Wow.
I could I know it's like, wow, how did that impact me? And what behavior pattern did that lead to? And then how has that been showing up in my love life? And how is that that to me is the most interesting thing I could be doing every day. So the fact that I then get to do that for myself and that it can be of service to anybody else in their life is like such an incredible gift to me.
Oh, it's such a beautiful gift. It really, really is. And so when you were doing the director role at Handel Group, did you get to do much coaching in that role?
In the training, we did a lot of coaching of students. So we teach the Handel Method in colleges, Stanford and MIT and NYU and University of Texas Austin. Like we have taught in all these, and part of the course is they get a coach. So they're being taught the principles, and then they have a coach session every week that then they need to use that principle in their life, and the coach helps hold them to that and help them see it through.
That's very, very cool. So,
so cool.
Being on like the corporate side was more so to do like not so much with like your like clients that would come in like through the website, for example, but it's more so through like the colleges and that type of thing when you say the corporate side.
That was during my training. So during the training, CIT, a coach in training, will do coaching with students. So while I was the director of operations, I was in my training. So I was doing all of that coaching. I did a lot of that because I was in the training for 5 years. Most people don't do. I like way more than fulfilled the amount that I needed to do.
You satisfied the requirement.
I did over and over. And, I just loved it because I would have a coach that I could go to and say, this came up during the session. What would you have said? Or what would you have done? This is what I did. What should I do next? And so I just love that, to get an experienced coach's take and starting to get reassured that like, oh, okay, we had the same idea. And that just felt so reassuring that like by the time I graduated, I became, I so hit the ground running. Like I didn't need any training on anything. We have a lot of, admin to keep track of clients as well. I know how to do all of that because I was the director of operations for so long that it was such an easy and natural transition for me. There was no hiccup. And then, while I was doing the life coaching and loving it, corporate had just such a need for more coaches, and no coaches were available at the time. So they brought me over from the life coaching division because I had so much familiarity with our corporate principles that we teach and the different offerings that we have as far as workshops and stuff. So that was another natural transition.
That's amazing.
So I stayed doing life coaching, but then took on a lot of corporate clients as well.
Very cool. And so how do you differentiate? What are the differences between the life coaching side and then the corporate coaching? Like, are the principles the same or are they a little bit different?
They're really, I mean, like everything that we would do in life, we would do in corporate. And then
Yeah.
in corporate, there's just more career focus. So
Mm,
a lot of times you will get clients in the corporate division that their boss has decided this I see potential in this person, like I want to promote them, but they've got to work on their ability to have tough conversations.
mm,
I have a client right now who avoids confrontation, is what her boss told her. And he bought a package of 12 sessions for her to work on that because he told her, I can't promote you until you can start doing this.
yeah.
So the difference in corporate than life is I'm accountable to the boss
Right.
and fulfilling his objectives
Mm-hmm.
with this client. So it's like I'm accountable to her and to her boss. Whereas in life, it's just that person and what they want to do in their life.
Mm,
And so there will be additional stuff in the corporate where a lot of times the people that I coach, because I am like one of the youngest, newest corporate coaches, a lot of times I'll get junior executives
mm.
as opposed to like the CEO.
Yeah.
I'll get one of the younger executives. And a lot of times what they're working on is delegating
Mm,
because they've been so used to just doing the work themselves and doing really well at that. But how are they now going to know how to pass that off to somebody? And so that is an interesting skill that a lot of junior executives need to work on. And so I get to work on that with them, how to manage up to their boss, how to manage down to their direct reports, and then how to manage across with their coworkers. And then they a lot of times need help with time management, but that's true for people in their personal life too.
yeah.
It's just in corporate, they need to be even better about a work-life balance. A lot of times that'll come up because they're trying so hard in their junior executive roles to stand out and to show up and be worthy of promotion that
Right.
they'll ditch their body and their family and their home and all those things that are so important for them showing up in their job.
Exactly. It's so true. It's so true. And so how do you sort of manage that, or what tip would you leave with everyone? Because I feel like the expectation can be very high from an employer perspective for the employee to perhaps always be working, or putting in extra time, or like doing whatever it takes to get the job done, which is valid because you need to get the task done. But so how do you sort of manage the balance between the executive that you're sort of keeping that you're accountable to, and the person that you're coaching? Like, how does that balance play out?
I usually have the person that I'm coaching really have a direct conversation with the boss about
Mm,
what their expectations really are. Because a lot of times a person I'm coaching has created a narrative of like, I have to work overtime and weekends to make my boss happy. But it's not necessarily true.
mm,
So they really need to find out, like, how important is this project? Like, what is the deadline? Because it looks like I'm not going to be able to get it done by 5 o'clock. Do you need me to work extra on this tonight because you have to have it in the morning? If
mhm.
so, yeah, do it. But then that means Friday take a half day. But you wouldn't do that if you didn't communicate it, because you'd feel like, oh God, I have to do this and then I have to work tomorrow. That person will end up being resentful of their job, and that's going to impact their results,
Mhm.
or they'll get burned out and it'll impact their marriage.
Mhm.
So they need to be really straight with their boss and really clear on what is the expectation, instead of like what we think it is.
Mhm.
We think, oh my God, I need to be perfect. Oh my God, I should already know how to do this. Don't ask how to do it. And like, we'll spin our wheels trying to figure out how to do something.
Totally.
So I'll send them a lot of times to really get clear on the expectation, and then to still manage that. Like my boss in corporate, she'll say, get back to me by the end of the day with this. And it's like, okay, I'm in calls all day with clients. Can I get this to you in the morning? And she's like, yeah, no problem. But I could have lived in, oh shit, I have to do this by the end of the day. I'm going to stay up till midnight. And, but if I have the courage to ask and you can really actually level set expectation. So that's part of it. And then I also send people to ask for feedback, because we really want to know what we're doing that's working and what we're doing that's not working. Like going to the boss, to a direct report, and to a coworker and asking, what do you see that's getting in the way for me? Like that I could do better. How could I show up better for you? What traits do you see that are getting in the way? And let's get some feedback so we know what we need to address instead of trying to guess.
100%. That's so good. That's so good. And I think that's just such a key piece, because I feel like a lot of the times, people feel, especially when you're more junior, you kind of feel, like you said, like you feel guilty asking questions, or you don't want to look like you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Or you don't want to look, like lazy for asking for a half day after you've worked the whole night.
Right.
You know what I mean? So how would you suggest someone sort of handles that if the expectation is to work long hours, if the expectation is to get the job done, how does someone start to balance that expectation versus taking a day off instead of not feeling bad about it, not feeling guilty about it?
Yeah. It's like, first off, is it the expectation, or is that just in your mind? If it really is.
You're right.
Let's get clear what the expectation really is. Like, I don't know many bosses that are like, yeah, the expectation is for you to work into the night every night.
Yeah.
And if it is, then okay, then we know that and we've agreed to that job and that's what the setup is, then let's do it. But then for how long are we going to be happy doing this? And what's the plan for the future? It's just like in any relationship. So if I'm in this marriage and I know you're going to work 7 days a week, and I got into this marriage knowing that, then I need to accept it and be at peace with it. Or I need to plan to leave, or we need to have a plan for when it's going to change.
Right.
We don't have to be martyrs. Like true. A lot of people that
it's true.
I did it long enough and it ends up being that I just am resentful and taking the marriage down anyway. I mean, that was a big part of what I could own, is that I didn't speak up. I wasn't happy. I just resented him for it. I never asked for what I needed and held a line for it. So I don't think you're going to become a leader and actually move up the ladder if you don't have your own standards that you hold yourself to and that you hold your job to. Like, I don't work weekends. It's self-worth, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I feel like, there's this whole thing that it's like, in order for you to be valuable, or in order for you to be, hardworking, that you have to face this like level of burnout. But it's just kind of like, says who? You know what I mean? Like, where did that rule come from? Who made that rule? And it's funny because in the jobs that I've had, I don't answer emails at night unless it's an emergency. You know what I mean? Yeah. I won't answer it. I don't feel like it's necessary. You know what I mean? You spend so much time somewhere. Like, at what point do you get to enjoy your own life? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Then you're level setting expectations for the people in your company. And I had a coworker that was the same. She never answered emails on the weekends or after 5:00. And I expected that of her. That was her standard. And I just knew that's how it was going to be. So I would send the email without expecting a response until working hours the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
And I respected her for it. And I, on the other hand, like, any hour, any day, because I'm a people pleaser. But am I pleasing me? And am I really, internally killing you off for expecting that of me?
And you're like mad at the other person, but the other person's like, well, you're just doing what you're doing anyways. Like, I never asked you to do this one thing.
Exactly.
Would you say that's like one of the biggest challenges? Do you think the story that people make up in their minds is like one of the biggest challenges you see in corporate?
In life, in everywhere. Yeah. Our narrative is a dangerous thing because we believe it. We think it's true. That's the danger with the narrative, is that we actually think it's really smart and it's really true and we live by it, as opposed to going and having the conversation and really getting getting the truth of what's going on for them, what's going on for you, and then co-designing how we're going to do this going forward, as opposed to just living by the narrative of I can't ask, I should already know, or I have to work hard in order to be promoted. I've got to give up my personal life for my job. I have to look like I'm dedicated. So that means I can't take a half day on Friday. And is any of it accurate? So we only know if we have the conversation. So that a lot of what I do in corporate is the same that I do in life, and that I'm teaching people how to go and have the hard conversations.
I love that. That's really, really good. And would you say that, the challenges that people face in their corporate experience directly translates into their life?
Completely. Yeah, because if at work, I'm like my client, the example of like, she's avoiding confrontation at work. Well, surprise, surprise, she's doing that at home. And now she's annoyed with her husband because she works more hours than he does. So as soon as she gets done working, she comes out into the living room because everybody's working at home, and he's ready to hang out and like jump into their time together. She wants time between working and being with him for herself. She hasn't asked for it. She hasn't set it aside. She hasn't put a boundary around that time. She's just annoyed with him. Well, surprise, surprise. Like, oh, the same thing she's doing at work, she's doing at home, avoiding confrontation. And when she said that, I said, but who even says it's confronting? Like, does it even really need to be a confrontation? Or can it just be, it's like you're avoiding conversation.
I was just thinking that word, conversation.
Yeah. Not confrontation. Like if you tell yourself it's confronting and that I have to go confront him, you're not going to do it. That sounds really scary.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you know what? Actually, that just does not sound like a road that I want to go down today.
Yeah, maybe I'll just go sit next to him on the couch and forget about what I really wanted. And
That's
I'll
really
be fine.
It's really interesting because I'm curious about that in particular too, because it's kind of like, it's almost like if you ask for that specific thing and you get it, like I keep going back to this like idea of like guilt, you know what I mean? If you're home, like maybe you should just spend time, like you're already there, you know what I mean? Like what's the difference if you're by yourself or if you're with the other person? But then, you're not really creating space in your life for anything that you enjoy or anything that you like, especially working from home now. Everyone's in each other's space 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it is that we end up them feeling bad that we want this time. But I asked her, like, how much time are we talking about? And she said 20 minutes. I said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to go lay in bed with the blankets on me and just stare at my phone under the covers and scroll. And I was like, that's so cute. Like, I bet you anything if you told him that, he'd be so happy to give that to you. 20 minutes to go lay in bed and scroll. And she's like, and then I'm good. I know I'm good after that.
That's amazing.
Like, that's tender. I know, because for me, I have to mark the time between work and being with my daughter and making dinner and all that, but exercising. So I take the time between to like go for a walk or do yoga or do a workout. And then I've done my breathing and I'm just a nicer, yeah, exactly. I'm more spacious in my response.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that you use that word. That's actually beautiful because you're holding space, but being spacious. I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. In terms of this time now that people are in with, pandemic and being home and working from home and all that kind of stuff, how could someone, or like what one tip would you give to our listeners about continuing to build on their career in this time when you're not face to face, you can't see your boss, and you're at home with all your loved ones?
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how all the different people do adapt to that. I have one client who started a new job at the beginning of the pandemic and doesn't know any of her coworkers or anybody. She hasn't spent any time face to face. She started a job and got onboarded from home. So she set up a lunch date. She went down the list of people and set up a lunch date with each one of them on Zoom. They
Oh,
bring their lunch and
wow.
chat during their lunch break. And she's gotten to know people. She chose 4 of them that she works closest with, and they all met outdoors with masks on and went for a walk together so that she could really connect and feel part of the team. So that was really cute for her to like create the connection she really wanted instead of being so bummed that she wasn't connected to anybody.
Yeah.
So she created it. So I was like, well, can you have a lunch? Can you do a Zoom call with people? Can you do a Zoom coffee? So she loved it so much, she just kept it going. And then I've seen other people that, now that they're home with their job, they're realizing they don't really like it. They're not really that happy with it. Like, this isn't really what they want to wake up and do anymore. And, I think in some ways it's forcing people to face the truth. And so they're spending, less time commuting. So they're spending that time researching other job possibilities and getting jobs even during the pandemic. It's happening. There's jobs available. There's still money.
There's so many jobs available. It's crazy.
It's crazy. There's a lot still going on. So, there's more time to get honest with ourselves. If we're not traveling out, we can travel in. We're not getting distracted and, doing all the entertainment stuff we would normally do. So it's forcing people to face the truth of like, is this, for people who lost their job, well, did they really love it? Yeah. Are they somewhat glad that it's over? And so then what's the truth of what they really wanted to be doing? And let's go do that. Let's create a plan for that and start working toward that. So that's been, it's been a reckoning for all of us. I ended a relationship in April, just at the very beginning of the pandemic, because it was like, oh yeah, let's just tell the truth. This isn't working.
Yeah.
Like, I am settling. There is something that isn't right here. I think it's true for career and a lot of places for people.
I completely agree with you. And especially when you've spent so much time settling already, it's just not like, why? You know what I mean? And it's like, here's the thing. I think there's like one of the biggest things that I heard throughout my whole life, a key theme / story that I always heard in my life was, you have to stay, in the secure job, the job with a pension, the job with benefits, and like all that stuff. Well, the safest job that I thought I ever could have had is the job that I got laid off from this year. And I found a new job, and it's a great job. And now in January, I'm going full-time in my business. But that never would have happened had that layoff never happened. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, how do you really define what security even is anyways? It has to be what you feel is secure, or what you feel is making you like joyful, fulfilled, and overall happy. Because I think, like you said before, I think that people are just so over wasting their time in doing things that they don't like to do.
That's right.
Oh, exactly. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah. So like security for me is trusting myself that no matter what, I know I can show up in integrity, like doing what I say I'm going to do, getting up on time, working hard. So I can, even if this job changes, I have the tools and I trust myself going forward to be able to reestablish, to pivot, and to work hard and be able to rely on myself. So I think that's where security so often comes from, is like, I'm in integrity. I keep my word to myself.
I love that so much. That's so important. I feel like that piece of trust with yourself is so, I feel like it's so underrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people don't take the time to get to know what they actually like, or heal the things that have held them back for so long, or all these stories that make up their life. And then in turn, you don't trust any decision that you're going to make, because you just, you know, it's just kind of like, well, is it, you know, will it really happen for me? Or like, will I be supported? Or all of these different stories. But that's so beautiful, because that element of trust is the direct reflection of all the work that you've done in your life, and all the work that you do continue to do, but also with your clients as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's like, if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I'm not going to trust myself. It breaks down that foundation of safety with myself, security with myself. But if I say, even if it's something small, like I'm going to go for a walk 3 days this week, and I do it, then I trust myself. I feel proud. I feel confident. I'm self-love. You know, it's like, I love myself.
Yeah.
Because I do what I say I'm going to do. Then I feel more secure. I feel more safe. So a lot of people in the beginning, you know, we felt really unsafe in a lot of ways this year. There's been so much uncertainty. So I've really been looking at ways that I can create that. How do I create certainty? It's like, oh, I stick to my exercise plan. I stick to my meditation plan. I stick to my eating plan. You know, it's like, what am I putting in? Even with social media and TV, like, what are we ingesting? Like, those are the few things that we do have control over. So let's do what we really saying we want to do.
I love that.
Yeah, it's been a really great opportunity, because I'm less distracted to like do what I say I'm going to do and then get the results. So I've lost 10 pounds during the pandemic, and
that's amazing.
I know. And it's largely been just what I eat, of course.
Yeah.
And the amount.
It always is, isn't it? And the amount. That's so true too.
That was a big part.
That's so true. I love, though, that you said that. I love that you said the part about control, because I think control is one thing that so many people are searching for. You don't have it anymore. You can't go out. You can't see people, like, depending where you are in the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's very little, but the biggest thing you have control over is everything else in your life, that however you get to spend your time. That's so key that you said that. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
I love it. Kimberly, this is one of my last questions for you. Okay. And it's a question that I ask all my guests when they come on the show. And it's, how can someone create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
For me, the key to happiness is, pretty much doing what I say I'm going to do, which is like being in nature. Like, I really get happy in nature. That is my happiest place. On Sunday, I went for a 15-mile hike in the old growth redwoods, and all day I was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Wow, you're so beautiful. Oh my God. And it was like a whole day of hearing positive affirmations. I was like, I'm saying it to the redwoods, but I'm hearing it. I'm feeling it. I was so happy. I was like, wow, this is joy. This is like expanding the upper limits of my joy. And so for me, happiness is definitely moving my body in nature. And so, I have a promise, like I'm doing that at least, 2 days a week, that I'm going into deep nature immersion on Saturday and Sunday. But even, during the week, I go and I sit outside on my front porch and look at my garden and watch the rain come down yesterday morning. I was just like, that makes me happy. And if you can identify where you feel good, like starting to notice in your body that, oh, I feel really good. When last night I laid on the floor after doing yoga, and I was using a lacrosse ball and rolling around, I was like, oh my God, this feels so good. This makes me so happy. It's like, okay, I noticed that. Now I need to do that more often. because if I want to be happy, let me pay attention to what feels good and do more of that.
That is amazing. That's a great, great, great answer. And I love that so much because I think that, there isn't enough like follow through on the things that people say they really want to do. There's nothing stopping you. I mean, for most things, like you can actually do whatever it is you want, whatever brings you that joy. You know what I mean? Being in nature is something that's so simple. Walking outside, putting your feet on the grass, like so simple.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. Feels so good.
It sounds so peaceful. You probably have so much beautiful nature around you too.
Oh my gosh, I have so much beautiful nature around me. It's why I live where I live and haven't left since I moved away for college.
Wow. Are you still in Northern California?
I am.
Oh, beautiful. That's amazing. And I have to ask, from what you were saying earlier, whatever happened with the winery?
My ex-husband bought me out last year.
Wow.
So that is officially done for me, but he still has the winery and is happily growing grapes and making wine. And
wow,
it's his passion, and it always was. And so I'm so happy for him. And I do whatever I can to support his success because I realize his success is my success. We have kids together. So I am a supporter of his and he's a supporter of mine. He's a dear friend. Once I cleaned everything up and he forgave me and I forgave him.
That small ownership piece from yourself.
Oh, that was so big.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that turned the corner for us was me just admitting where I was the one that took the marriage down. It's like, oh, here's the list of what I did.
And you're like,
sorry.
Noted. But you know what? That's so important because I think that it's so easy to point blame and point fingers at other people. It's so hard to look at your own self and be like, yeah, okay, that was me. I should have not done that. Yeah. But it's a completely other thing to like acknowledge it and be like, yeah, by the way, I'm really sorry about that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then you build on, like you create this new connection, this new bond based off something else. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was really healing. Now I know you want an apology, give an apology.
So true. That is key advice for everyone who's listening right now. I love it. Kimberly, where can our listeners find you?
Handelgroup.com is the website for the coaching, and on Instagram it's kcabot72.
Perfect. Amazing.
See my nature photos.
Oh, well, I'll be at peace with you in the nature. I love that.
I would love that.
Oh, wouldn't it just be? Oh, I agree with you. One of the biggest things that I did during the pandemic, during the time that I was home, was I would just go for walks for like 4 hours a day. And there's like a pond like near where I live and like lots of like trails and whatever. And I would just go outside. I'd never done that in my life. Aww. And then I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. Like, this is what people do with their time. I'm like, this is great. I can do this. This is great.
Yeah, this makes me feel good. I'll do this more.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for coming on the podcast. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Of course. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the podcast. I hope you loved this conversation as much as I did. Be sure to share it with someone you know needs to hear this message. And remember, going into your week this week, that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. Well, it looks like we have made it to the end of this episode. I'm so proud of you for tuning into this episode, and I'm so grateful that you joined me in this incredible conversation. I would be so grateful if you took a quick second to rate and review the podcast and let me know what you loved the most. I also love hearing from you, and I would love to know your thoughts on this episode. So feel free to tag me online or let me know that you're listening. I'm so excited to connect with you. Wishing you a beautiful day ahead, and remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.